I was looking at different colleges and degree programs of what I wanted to do, and honestly, like nothing really interested me. One of the options I was looking at was going into computing, which I absolutely hated. I had no interest in it. And one day I'm watching a Premier League game, and at halftime, an advert comes on the TV. I hear about this university program that does, sports business and football business degrees, and I'm like, oh, like that's interesting. Like I've never heard of this before. That's what kind of like sparked it. Otherwise, before, like my applications were done in terms of going into computing at university. I pulled all of those out and I was like, okay, like I need to change that immediately.
Hello and welcome to the Sports Grad Podcast, the ultimate guide to make it in the sports industry. I'm your host, Nathan Peroni, and on this podcast, I chat with people in industry and find out how they got hired into dream jobs in sport. If you want to know what people are doing to break in and grow their career, make sure to follow the pod and subscribe to our newsletter for even more advice. Or if you want to give yourself a competitive advantage in the job market and put your career on a rapid new trajectory, go to our website and apply for the next cohort of the Sports Grad Method program. Now, coming up on the show today is Sonny Dhillon, Partnerships Marketing at the Seattle Sounders. Sonny grew up in Wolverhampton in England and early on struggled to know what he wanted after high school, but was able to pivot into an impressive start to a career in sport. A first full-time role at Man United, followed by a fantastic tenure in global partnerships at his home club Wolves, Sonny was on a path many would only dream of. A move to the US was a challenge, but an opportunity to continue his growth, and here he has excelled at the Seattle Sounders, working with the club's biggest partners like Adidas and Toyota, even including the likes of PSG and Atletico Madrid playing against the Sounders during the Club World Cup last year. With the FIFA World Cup in Seattle and Australia just playing over the weekend against the US, there's no better person to speak to right now about what's happening on the ground in Seattle. For football lovers or people passionate about partnerships, this is an incredible listen. So grab a pen and enjoy this chat with Sonny.
Hey guys, Ruben Williams here, founder of SportsGrad. We'll be back to the episode in just a second, but I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about the SportsGrad Method program, which has been helping people land jobs at major sporting bodies in as little as 14 days and doesn't require you to take out a massive debt to get started. If you are looking to make a jump into the sports industry, but nothing seems to be working for you right now, then why not apply for the SportsGrad Method program? Inside, you'll get given a proven playbook and a one-on-one industry mentor, as well as access to the SportsGrad network, plus much, much more, all of which have helped people land over 800 roles in sport. If you're ready to back yourself and fully go after your career and not let life get away from you and wonder, what if I'd only given that a shot? Then you're the kind of person who we'd love to work with. So head to sportsgrad.com.au/program and you can apply to join us.
Sonny Dhillon, welcome to the Sports Grad Podcast.
Thank you. Pleasure to be on with you, mate.
So I'm our first guest from America, and we're mid-World Cup. This is being recorded end of May. We're now doing this release a couple of days after we play America. Now, as people probably hear from your accent, you're not actually American, even though you're working in the States. But also, you mentioned that you had heard of the podcast before I messaged you. How did that happen?
I had, yeah. So honestly, I think it goes back maybe a few years now. Honestly, I think it was just seeing some of your guys' content on LinkedIn and socials. Had seen snippets. I think I follow your guys' page before. So when you did reach out to me, I'm like, oh, Sports Squad, like I've heard of this. Like, where does I was like, this is yeah, it was almost like it was weird. It was like full circle. I was like, I used to like kind of like hear about you guys when I was sort of like early on in like my 20s and stuff, and then to have you guys reach out to me was kind of funny. So yeah, which I obviously mentioned to you on the message that I sent you back. But yeah, pleasure to be connected. Great to be on. So yeah, thank you.
Pleasure, man. Great that the podcast is going global. So that's a good thing.
You guys are big in the UK. You made it on. You made it onto all platforms, so that's good.
Yeah, no, unreal. World Cup fever must be taking over Seattle right now. I know you've already spoken to me about some initiatives that's going on. Do you maybe we'll maybe speak to that later. But yeah, what's the buzz like around the city at the moment?
It's certainly ramping up across the city, across the country. So even yesterday, for example, another big moment, the US national team squad got announced. So obviously big hype around that. Even in the local cities, everything's ramping up in terms of getting activation footprint set up. Stadiums well underway in terms of rebranding and getting everything set up there. So MLS season has now come to a stop. So we played our last game last week as we go into the World Cup break. So yeah, everything's pretty much now focused on yeah, all things World Cup now. So Looking forward to it. Excited. It's what June 11th is the kickoff, is the first day, which is gonna probably feel like it's gonna be here tomorrow. So yeah, a lot of stuff to be done in that period of the next 2 weeks. But looking forward to it.
Exciting time. Can't wait to get over there myself. Um, we like to start the pods with some quick fire questions to get to know you a little bit before we dive in. So, firstly, what inspired you to work in sport?
Good question. I think always had a passion in playing sport growing up as a kid, whether that was football or cricket growing up. Those two were the two big ones for me. Obviously, see a couple of cricket bats in the background there, which is nice. So yeah, always kind of had an interest in it and a passion in terms of playing. In terms of working in it, never really saw it's kind of interesting because I never really saw like the career or the pathways to kind of get into it. Sort of as a kid, like I don't think that sort of awareness was really there. I kind of just stumbled across it, to be honest. So, and when I did do that, I was like, okay, like I have an interest in sort of playing it. Would love to kind of learn more about it from like a technical or a business side. So yeah, that was kind of when it started, I guess, really, which is kind of weird, like looking back at it, you know, in terms of that sense that that sort of education, if you like, wasn't there in terms of like what the career and the pathway was in sport. But I think even with the stuff that you guys do and other sort of outlets, I think that has increased over the last few years, I guess.
Oh, sounds good. And in terms of your first ever job and first ever sport related job, what were those?
First ever sport related job. So the first one was actually when I was working part time um during my university degree. So I used to work in the Manchester City club shop, and I actually got sort of an internship with the company that runs the store. So it was called Fanatics, obviously a big sort of like retail company. That was just through their head office people coming in, and the person that was paired up with me was actually the CFO of the company. And so we kind of like spent a day together. I was showing her around the store in terms of what sort of my roles and responsibilities were, which was for the most time pressing names and numbers onto jerseys, if you like. And then at the end of it, she was like, "Hey, why don't you come spend some time in our head office in Manchester?" So that kind of really, almost answering your first question, that kind of inspired me to kind of yeah, like work in sport. That was sort of my first sort of touch point in terms of sort of opening my eyes into that. And then even like subsequently after that, ended up getting an internship working at an agency called Triple S Sports, that ran the event Soccer Aid, which is a charity football match. So I think those two really were the two that really sort of opened my eyes in terms of what was possible in a career in sports.
Some pretty cool first up experiences, I must say. After high school, did you do any study?
Yeah, so went to university after high school. Yeah, typically in the UK, you finish your GCSEs and your A levels, and then at sort of 17, 18, you head off to university. For me, I didn't really know what I wanted to do going into that university college period. Didn't, again, as I mentioned, didn't really know the career or the pathways that I wanted to go into for university, and then yeah, ended up stumbling across a program called UCFB, which was a sort of a sports business or a football business institute, if you like. And when I heard about that, I kind of went headfirst into it and ended up, yeah, doing a degree in football business and finance.
Sick. I don't think we have anything down here for that. So I would have loved to have done that one. One interview question you asked for the job you're in, or one question you like to hire. Sorry, one question you like to ask people that you hire.
uh, I think asking someone, or even when I've been asked in the past, is what skills do you think are needed for this job? I think yeah, it's a question just to kind of get an understanding of like, yeah, people's background in terms of the skills that they've developed over the years of experience that they had and how they can kind of bring those into the position that they're obviously applying for or the one that I went into. So I think it's a good question to kind of understand someone's sense of, all right, like what are the different sort of skills and the qualifications that you're going to need in terms of being able to execute the tasks and obviously be able to grow into different scenarios, I guess, really.
That makes sense. And book or podcast recommendation that's helped your career at all?
Uh, Sports grad. uh,
Plug from the other side of the world.
Of course, why not? Yeah, sports grad, but another one that I want to give a mention to, Price of Football. That's one that I used to listen to in the UK, still do now. For me, yeah, it sort of piques a lot of interest in terms of the finances and the business side of the game. It's a UK-based podcast. Has some great content on there, has some great guests on there. So yeah, that's one that I listen to regularly.
We had a guest the other week actually say the exact same thing, and he's a Brit that's come to Melbourne, and I'd never heard of it. I do need to listen, and when you said it, I was like, "Yep, I do need to get onto that ASAP."
It's worth a listen. Yeah, they have some great content on there.
Yeah, and the last one on the quick fires: if you could try another job in sport for a day, what would it be?
Another job in sport. I think working on the sporting or the technical side. I think, as I mentioned, obviously had an interest in sort of playing growing up as a kid. So I think for me, doing closer to the sporting side of it. So working on the technical side in terms of like recruiting players or analyzing games or stuff like that. I think yeah, that would be sort of a nice passion project that I could possibly get into. But if I was to do that for a day, it would definitely be that.
Do they ever give you much exposure to do that whilst you're at the Sounders to just touch base with the football guys?
Yeah, we do. We're all in the same building. So yeah, we mix quite a lot. Yeah, get to pick their brains sometimes on, what they're looking to do, what they've seen over the course of the season, what the trends have been in terms of like performance and stuff. So always nice to kind of get a few minutes with them sometimes just to kind of see. Yeah, we cross paths in the hallway pretty often. We do things like pickup games here at the facility, which we all participate in. So yeah, everyone kind of crosses paths and yeah has a strong, solid relationship.
Beautiful. Sounds awesome. You spoke about some early experiences already, but I want to take you back to that early stage in your career. Obviously, you mentioned the stuff at Fanatics and City. You did a bunch of internships across, like you said, soccer and football businesses, however we want to call it. I think we'll just stick with football for the conversation.
Yeah,
Um,
good shout.
but yeah, do you want to tell us about how valuable those were early doors, and then also, I guess, the challenges you had to even just land some of those initial roles?
Yeah, I think going to the challenges. I think for me, casting my mind back to university, I remember being on the days of LinkedIn, reaching out to anyone and everyone that I could do at football clubs, whether that was in marketing positions or sponsorship positions, any finance, communications, just to kind of get some FaceTime with them, get a call with them, not even just to kind of get work experience, just to even like network with them, ask them about what they do. I think it was important for me at that point just to kind of get an understanding of what are the different opportunities within sport? What are some of the things that I, might like versus what I don't like? So I think, yeah, for me, it was, yeah, trying to build that network, reach out to people, which is obviously very difficult. But yeah, you kind of get some breakthroughs. I'd say my university was helpful in terms of me finding some of those experiences as well. So they had a lot of networks within the industry as well that they were able to tap into and set me up with, which I appreciated a lot. Like I mentioned, the one that I ended up doing at Triple S that came through them. So I think yeah, the value that you can place on getting those internships and work experiences is pretty priceless. To be honest, I think it sets you up the most when you've done those 3 or 4 years in college, university, and you're then looking at the next step in your career, whether that's further education or whether that's actually going into the world of work. I think a lot of employers appreciate the fact that yeah, people have kind of you know dabbled in that sort of field or that area, and they have some sense of an understanding. I think it adds more weight in terms of just in terms of not just having a degree, actually having workplace experience, which is yeah, on one foot like very difficult to find, but also like so valuable when you do have it. That yeah, like when you come out of it on the other side after you've done your degree, that yeah, it carries its weight in gold.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you. And then you moved on from some of those roles and found a way into Man United, which again for many people in the football world, you love or hate Man United, but I'm sure it's a kind of dream opportunity to get to a club of that size. From what I can see, it was only like a 6-month contract by the looks of it, sponsorship, sales, operations. But do you want to tell us how that came about and the type of work you did for that short period of time?
For sure. So yeah, this was when I was coming towards the end of university. Having worked at Triple S, was doing some of their sponsorship operations there, and found that interesting and wanted to going into those last few months of university. I was closing out my dissertation, getting ready for exams, but also on one side trying to look for jobs, right? Because that process can take a few months. Luckily, one of the ones that came up and one of the ones that got back to me was Man United. And so that was based in their London office to work within their sponsorship sales operations team. So did that before I'd even graduated university. So was frequently traveling from Manchester, which is where I was studying, down to London. Those that don't know the geography of the UK, that's a pretty fair distance. So Monday to Friday would be in London, and then back to Manchester on the weekends to sort of finish up university work, and also get ready for my exams. So was doing that before I'd even finished university, and then did
Where are you from, by the way?
Wolverhampton.
Okay, so you're from and for context, that's like in the middle of both.
Yeah, it's kind of in the middle of both. Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of all running down one line, if you like. So from Wolverhampton, and then was in London, sort of Monday to Friday, working at Man United, and then back in Manchester for the weekend. But yeah, that kind of came about towards the end of my degree. Obviously they offered me the position before I'd finished, and I didn't want to say no to it. So I was kind of like, all right, let me see if I can try and spin both plates at once here, which thankfully I was able to do. But it was honestly coming out of university was a great opportunity to be a part of, not only working for a club of that size. I think also working for a club that has done commercial, sponsorship deals to probably the best ability of sort of any sports team, if you like, over the last maybe 15, 20 years. So being able to be in that space, learn from, some of the best people in the industry, just to be in that environment. And so my job there was to essentially really work with the sales team, in terms of finding, one was the next jersey sponsor after Chevrolet. So I was working on the operations of that. So kind of almost being the how you'd have on like a production set, like a runner, if you like. So like my job was to really be a runner in terms of, making sure things are set up for meetings, sales leads have everything that they need in terms of going into these pitches that they have with these clients. So yeah, it was a great experience to be a part of. Did that across, for example, one was the replacing the jersey patch for Chevrolet, and then also like other category level deals as well. So it kind of opened me up in terms of understanding the process of how, a behemoth like Manchester United, commercialize their sporting success, right? Which was pivotal to me in terms of that learning and that absorption sort of process, I guess, really. So yeah, for me, coming out of college was the best thing that I could step into.
Yeah, what an awesome experience. I love how you said you're from Wolves or Wolverhampton, because then you move on to global partnerships at Wolves. Was that a bit of like a dream job? I assume you're a Wolves fan if you're from the area.
Yeah, so from the area, grew up in the area, was kind of almost like twofold. So funnily enough, kind of followed like Man United a little bit as a kid growing up, but yeah, was a Wolves fan. And then when the opportunity came up to get a job at Wolves, it was okay, like like for me to go and work for my hometown team. This was at the time of when they had kind of just been promoted into the Premier League, so fast growing club. They'd just finished their first season actually in the Premier League. So it was after that season when they finished seventh, had just qualified for the Europa League. So a club that was going a lot of places. And for me, honestly, was growth. In terms of being at Man United, it was great to kind of be in that space, to learn. But I think stepping into Wolves was a very different project in terms of Man United was huge. It was already kind of reached the top of the mountain, if you like, and it was ultimately trying to stay there. But for Wolves, it was like at the very bottom, and it was still on its way up after getting promoted into the Premier League, and still finding its footprint in terms of like building out the commercial success of being in the Championship for so long, where it really wasn't exposed to that, I guess, really. So for me, it was that challenge of going into somewhere new, and being able to sort of impact change, if you like.
And I imagine those commercial teams are looking very different in terms of resources and numbers compared to United. I imagine it's still a decent amount because they are a Premier League club and come from the Championship. But I imagine the scale is very different.
Yeah, massively. At Man United, when I was there, so their sponsorship sales office, which was solely there for the purpose of bringing revenue in. So I'm not even talking like activation or account management. That office was probably the size of maybe 60 people or so. Um, on the flip side, when I stepped into Wolves, the partnerships team was 3 people. So that is basically the difference between, what you want to compare, the top club in terms of Manchester United versus, what I was stepping into at Wolves. But for me, that was exciting. For me to step into that, I was like, okay, like time to roll your sleeves up, time to get in, and yeah, like learn by doing, and yeah, try and make a difference.
You obviously would have done a lot and learned a lot across the 3 years. I know one thing you mentioned in your answers back to me was one of your pinch me moments was landing a new kit deal for, I don't know if it's from a jersey or a sleeve, but you can tell us. But and I think going broadcasted around the world for the players. Do you want to tell us the story behind it and how it came about?
For sure. Yeah, so this was for the sleeve of I want to say the 2021-22 season, if I'm correct, if my memory tracks correctly. So, um, yeah, kind of worked with an agency that had a brand that they were representing. So for me, it was, yeah, kind of working with them to kind of get them across the line in terms of, getting the deal done. And in terms of sponsorships, it's a pretty tough, demanding space. Obviously, brands and clubs. There's obviously a lot of clubs that are probably fishing in the same pond in terms of sponsors. And obviously, brands have the pick of those, and they have the options to different sports teams, different leagues, etc. So, yeah, to be able to land one, and to be able to then obviously see the fruits of your labor go into it in terms of, yeah, seeing it on Sky Sports, for example, when Wolves are playing at Old Trafford and they've just beaten Ronaldo's Manchester United, when Jaume Moutinho scored in the 81st minute. And yeah, like the logo of the deal that you sold is now being seen, by millions across the world, and that highlight's being played. I think that some of those moments definitely puts a smile on your face and makes you, yeah, kind of be like, wow, like, yeah, this is great, and like this is why you're in the industry.
Is the partner still involved at Wolves or not anymore?
Not anymore. So I think that was just for that one season, but yeah, it was still great to be part of. And my role at Wolves was to kind of almost like kind of be like the in between the sales team and the activation team to kind of, yeah, work on like the strategy, but also help on like both sides as well. So I had hands in quite a few of the deals in terms of like supporting some of the guys in terms of getting stuff done, whether that was sales or even like account management. So yeah, even when we had other partner deals get over the line, whether that was for front of kit, it was great to obviously be able to support colleagues in terms of get that done, and obviously like share and like celebrate their success as well. So we had a lot of great sponsors that we worked with, a lot of great friends and memories that were built along the way. I think, yeah, whenever I look back on my time at Wolves, it was like, I think, yeah, it was just a fun time to be able to be part of that with the people that I was with, a club that was growing. So, yeah.
And whilst Wolves maybe sucked this year, at the time,
We were getting to that. We were getting to that.
yeah, I was going to say at the time for people listening, if you're football people, like you got Jaume Moutinho, Jota, Gibbs White, Jimenez, Pedro Neto, Ruben Neves, Vitinha, Adama Traore, like these are guys that some of them have, I mean, Vitinha's playing in Champions League final, obviously. Um, so some big names. I want to just ask you lastly on Wolves is sometimes you see if you've got a commercial eye that it looks different in Europe versus the Premier League. I know Palace just won Conference League and I think they had like Palace for Life as their front of shirt. Or wasn't the actual sponsor. What are the challenges and like the differences where there's red tape that you can't do X, Y, Z in Europe, and I assume its partners not paying up perhaps as well to that threshold?
Yeah, in terms of like some of like the obstacles and like the challenges that you face, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's for the most part, it can just kind of be, I suppose, for Wolves, even like uh in terms of like the time that I was there, I think the way that the Premier League is sort of divided up is you have a top six, if you like, which is the traditional top six of Spurs, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, City, etc. And then you've almost got like the rest of the 14 who are almost kind of bundled into one, if you like, really. So like that 14 of the remaining Premier League clubs are almost kind of seen on a pretty similar basis. Obviously, in terms of like sporting level, there may be like different in terms of one may finish eighth, the other one may finish 16th. But in terms of club size, brand, etc., they're all kind of on par with each other. So I think some of the challenges that you may face when you're working on the commercial side is that some of the brands don't really kind of can see and can understand the difference in terms of what that difference is, if you like. So I think a lot of the times, like, these clubs can be like pulled in together. So I think that's even more important for us to kind of like differentiate and to be able to storytell, if you like, and to be able to do different things um, that other clubs may not necessarily do. So I think that's almost a challenge in terms of like, okay, like, yeah, like if we're in this pool of 14, how do we differentiate and do something that's different, for example, that kind of sets us apart a little bit, which we did to an extent at Wolves. We did things like a music label, esports, etc. So we kind of did a few things there that kind of diversified our product away from just the football side. But yeah, like, even to the other points of what you mentioned there, like, yeah, you might find instances whereby, yeah, like, partners are speaking to other clubs at the same time, and yeah, ultimately it can be a race in terms of, like, yeah, for example, if, okay, like, one club's offering this much, like, why are you not offering the same, or like, why are you guys offering more money, etc. So I think, yeah, it's just kind of like facing some of those challenges. Yeah, I think in the UK and Europe, you'll see a lot of instances whereby, yeah, I think partners can sometimes face like financial difficulties, and then sometimes, you can have obstacles there in terms of contractual obligations getting fulfilled, and even things like you mentioned the Crystal Palace instance. There is that, yeah, like, a lot of Premier League clubs. I know the rules and regulations are going to be changing, but a lot of Premier League clubs rely on gambling front of kit sponsors, because obviously that's a lucrative market, and that was the same during my time at Wolves. Is that, yeah, for the time period that I was there, we had a front of kit that was always gambling. And so, yeah, when you have that reliance, it also has its drawbacks as well, in terms of when you're playing in these European competitions. In some countries, that's not permitted, so you kind of have to change, and you may put the foundation or the charity arm of the club on the front of the kit for certain games. Fans may have a certain opinion towards having a gambling sponsor on the front of your kit. So yeah, I suppose these are kind of the issues that you come across. But yeah, I know the rules are obviously going to be changed in the next couple of seasons, so we'll see how that kind of evolves.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting watch. I know some clubs are already trying to get out of it and sign new deals. So yeah, it will certainly be a fascinating one. Now you moved away, and obviously to where you are now, you're in Seattle in the US. Why was there a desire to make the move to North America, and what were some of the biggest challenges doing it?
That's a good question. So kind of the move to the US came about through, for the most part, family. So family had been over here for a while, and so through that, I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to be able to move over here. Yeah, at the time, I was still at Wolves, and in my hometown city, kind of just enjoying that time period of being at home around your friends, etc. So it was kind of half and half about whether I wanted to move or not, but yeah, kind of sat on it for a little bit and thought, okay, like, it's a cool opportunity at the end of the day, right? Being able to move somewhere new, to a different country, and yeah, like, if it doesn't work out, like, you can always come back, I guess, really. So I suppose it was kind of, yeah, the curiosity of it. Obviously, yeah, there's obviously like risk and stuff involved in terms of, yeah, like, thinking of like, like, getting out of your comfort zone, but which at the start I didn't really want to do, but kind of over time was like, all right, I'll try it. So yeah, ended up partly through family, and then kind of found a position before I ended up moving to the US, which kind of, yeah, kind of like sealed it for me in terms of, yeah, like, me moving over. So yeah, that was it back in June of 2022 now. So coming on 4 years.
Did you? I saw on your LinkedIn, but was that in LA? It wasn't in Seattle. That initial role.
That was in LA, yeah. So I was in LA for a couple of years, and then moved up to Seattle in September of 24. So coming on 2 years now in Seattle as well.
And was that purely for the Sounders role, which we'll get to in a sec?
For the Sounders role, yeah. Yeah, purely for the Sounders role. So yeah, wanted to get back into the football space. Was missing that part, yeah.
That makes sense. I just want to talk about you made your own business as well, sort of around this time, for a short period, called Block Play. Do you want to just tell us why you did this, and I suppose a cool deal that came about through Brighton and Hove Albion as well with that work?
For sure. I think I suppose, yeah, having worked in the Premier League and at Wolves, I built up a lot of, sort of client relationships, with brands, during my time there. And whilst I was out in the US, a few people had reached out to me to kind of get an understanding of, like, hey, like, I'm at this brand now. how can I get my brand into sport, etc. So when that kind of came around, I was like, okay, like maybe there's an opportunity here for me to kind of um, throw myself into this and kind of help brands and position myself as almost like a support system whereby I can find them, sponsorship opportunities within the Premier League, if you like. So honestly, for the most part, it kind of came about through that, I guess, really by chance. And so yeah, that's kind of how I ended up positioning it or spinning it, if you like, in terms of okay, like these brands obviously need help in terms of direction, in terms of steering themselves, in terms of how they how do you even find a sponsorship? Who are the right people to speak to? What are the price points of, what's considered a good deal? What are the assets that we should look for based on what we're trying to achieve? And then ultimately, yeah, like when a deal's signed, it's yeah, like activating it. How do you squeeze the juice out of it? So yeah, kind of found myself in that position and through the experience I had, thought yeah, like I was a good resource that, people could sort of lean on, I guess, really.
Yeah, great way to capitalize on all those contacts. Do you still do any of it now on the side, or it's sort of finished itself?
For right now, I'm all in on the Sounders. So yeah, that kind of came to a hold when I moved us to Seattle. But yeah, kind of really enjoyed that. But yeah, when I came up here to Seattle, is when I kind of went full time on this position.
Yeah, no, can make complete sense. Now, part of why I got you on again, when I did this outreach a while ago, for those listening, I knew we were playing as a Socceroos in Vancouver, Seattle, and San Fran. So I was like, let's see if I can connect with anyone in those cities that are working in football. So thank you again for doing that. And do you want to tell us your partnerships marketing at Seattle Sounders? Yeah, what does the role involve, and what's the commercial ecosystem like for the city and that northwest part of the country?
For sure, yeah, definitely. So yeah, my role is to manage some of the sponsors of the team. So I have like a portfolio of clients that I work predominantly with. So one being our jersey sponsor Providence, another one being Adidas, and then our auto partner Toyota. So those are the kind of main three that I sit across and work with. And honestly, it's the role can kind of vary just based on yeah the obviously the different accounts that you have, the different clients that you're working with. If I was to put it into, a nutshell, I'd say it's, yeah, making sure, you deliver on the contractual rights that are in the contract, but obviously working in partnerships, it can be, well, it is so much more than that. It's about, two companies that are coming together to, uh, kind of evolve and to grow and for us to kind of, meet their business objectives outside of, what's written in the contract and how can we kind of grow together, I guess, really. Because obviously, yeah, like obviously growth for us is important as well. And it's how can we lean on, some of these partners, these resources to help us grow within the city, within the state, within the country. So yeah, a lot of different things going on. To mention a couple, we did a co-branded marketing campaign with Providence a few weeks back, which was using our head coach around like men's screening. So everything there was around getting a production company in, doing the shoot, making sure we got the content that we wanted, and then getting that out across all the channels that we wanted. So things like Apple TV, which is our broadcast partner for the league, getting out on social, and other various channels as well. And then also like on the flip side, Adidas, it's about various different things like it can be new boot releases or placing your order for the upcoming 27-28 season of all the front office needs and the first team like inventory that you'll need, or even like confirming things like sponsor color, logos on the jersey. So honestly, it can kind of vary. It can kind of depend on the partner that you're working with and some of the stuff that you got going on. We've got a lot of stuff going on with World Cup right now as well, which is good. So all hands to the pump on that as well. So yeah, it can kind of vary.
It sounds like you got all the big dogs, all the big accounts as well, all the majors.
Yeah, you could say that. It's a good position to be in to be able to look after those three. Yeah, all of them very different. Providence is a healthcare system. Adidas is obviously, a giant sportswear company, and then you got Toyota again, giant automotive partner that has a big footprint in Seattle and obviously like sports sponsorship around the world as well. So yeah, being able to work with three very different businesses on very different business needs, can kind of grow you in terms of just getting an understanding of what what their business model is as well. So I think that's another like cool thing that you get to see in sort of my role, is that you're kind of the connector between two businesses and two organizations' growth. So which is nice. I know you mentioned about like the commercial ecosystem in MLS and CL. I'd probably say it's uh, comparing it to England and to Europe. I'd say, and people have asked me this question before. It's in Premier League and in European soccer, I'd say you probably work with a lot more global brands, in terms of brands that may not necessarily have businesses or footprints in the country that you're operating in. So, for example, the Premier League, right? So you may be partners with a company that's based out in Asia or in the US that may not even have a UK based business, because they're in it for the global audience, they're in it for the IP that the name of a Premier League team carries. Whereas on the flip side, when you're working in the MLS and Seattle, and obviously Seattle's a huge sports market, the people here love their sports teams. You're working with brands that want to activate locally, that want to get in front of the people here in the city and the state. So yeah, the kind of the activations and the different sort of campaigns and strategies that you're running are kind of very different in that sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. It's a good point too. One other thing I wanted to ask you around that is, like, I think we struggle here in Australia, especially in the football sense, to connect with other sports properties. Like, we always feel like we're all rivals and we have to fight against each other, or not work with other sports. How do you find, or is there chances to connect with the Seahawks and other teams in the area?
Yeah, that's a good question. And yeah, to your point, yeah, I feel like there is, yeah, even like to my time, like back in the UK, it's like all the teams are up against each other, right? It's competition. But yeah, I'd probably say the US, during my time here, I've seen it differently, and we have opportunities to connect with the Seahawks or with some of the other teams like the Kraken, which is the NHL team, or the Mariners. Yeah, probably say it's very collaborative here, which is great, because I think ultimately, yeah, that can uh, bring the businesses together, help in terms of like partnerships as well. So yeah, networking opportunities, being able to go out and meet those guys, is definitely something that we do, probably more so here than probably what I was doing more than what I was doing in the UK for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. And do you find that a big difference is, like, you're sharing Lumen Field as well? Like, obviously that doesn't happen in England. It happens a lot in Australia. Yeah, what are the challenges around that, but also the pluses of doing that with the Seahawk?
It's definitely interesting. I think for me, yeah, to your point, it's not common practice in the UK for sure. So it's something that was new to me. But yeah, in terms of the US sports market, it's fairly common knowledge that a lot of sports teams will share stadiums. But I think, yeah, the opportunity is that you're in these big stadiums, right? So you have the ability and the capacity to sell as many people as you like. Lumen Field, for example, is a downtown stadium in Seattle, so we're fortunate to be able to be in the heart of the city, right? Whereas a lot of other sports teams will have their stadium maybe 20, 30 minutes out of the city, where people are having to travel to. Like, we're right in the heart of the city, out on the waterfront. So I think that in itself is a huge compliment, to be able to do things like that. And then yeah, like on if you look at not necessarily some of the drawbacks, if you like, but for example, Lumenfield is turf, which obviously like is obviously different to what I'm used to from a football perspective, in terms of all the stadiums in the UK being grass. And then also, yeah, like Lumen Field is for the Seahawks, so we can sometimes play, a bit in terms of working around their schedule and stuff. But yeah, honestly, I think it has a lot of benefits in terms of being able to, yeah, do a lot of collaborative stuff. And yeah, like as I mentioned, like location's important, and I'd say it's one of the biggest locations that we've got.
Yeah, I know, from a fan perspective, going to Seattle, we're all like, it's a massive plus than going from New York to Boston, and then it's like an hour away to the city. So, no, it's a big plus. I want to speak to the Club World Cup, which also took place at Lumen Field. Now, for many, that's not something you can tap into, but you're obviously very fortunate the Sounders made it, and it was on home turf. What was that like, as a club? You had clubs like Botafogo, Atleti, PSG, all in your backyard. And how did you commercialize it as well?
Honestly, I think for us it was an exciting time period, and for us we treated it as like, all right, like World Cup's in 2026, but we've also got this great opportunity for us as Seattle, which a lot of other MLS teams don't, in terms of being able to play in the Club World Cup, which is huge. Being able to have 6 matches here in Seattle, which took place, 3 of them which were ours as well, and then again to your point, to have Sounders play against Botafogo, Atletico Madrid, and PSG, who had just won the Champions League at the time, was like kind of surreal, to be honest. And being able to watch that at Lumen Field was great. Like, for example, like the attendances were great. People were coming out to. I remember like I think PSG was played on like a Monday lunchtime, and we had, I think, like close to like 60,000 people come out to watch the game. So the games that we played in Seattle were very well supported, and honestly, for us, I think from a competitive standpoint, we put, a great foot forward in terms of like showing ourselves on that stage as well. We competed against all 3 teams, didn't get a result, but yeah, I think for more so it was us. It was about, being able to be on that platform in a global competition, and yeah, for us, it was being able to, yeah, like almost like strengthen some of those ties in terms of, like, for example, when FIFA come into town, they have control of the stadium, and in terms of the branding that they have there. So for us, we kind of have to pivot a little bit in terms of, some of the commercial stuff that we're having to do. So a lot of it ends up being outside the stadium, within the city. Um, One of the things that we did was a merchandise collab with a local lifestyle brand that we did here. So did some cool stuff around that. But yeah, I think for the most part, it's about switching on, social and digital channels, being able to put content out there for a moment that, doesn't necessarily come around too often. I know we competed in a previous Club World Cup as well, but to be able to have one that was on home soil ultimately allowed us to sort of amp up and ramp up some of the things that we were doing. So for us, it was being able to, yeah, capitalize on that moment, being able to put, a strong case out there in terms of like Seattle being able to support its soccer team, which the city did very well. So all in all, like the 3 games went really well during the month of, I think it was like June and July. So yeah, couldn't have asked for a better experience during that time.
Yeah, love to hear it. And yeah, what an awesome opportunity for the club and for you to be a part of that as well. The last one on Seattle I want to ask you is, and if you any football fans out there, I think we've seen the famous fan, which is the cry of "Come on, Seattle, fight and win" from years ago on YouTube. Have you ever met this guy or seen him around?
I've not met him or seen him around, but funnily enough, like, yeah, even when I was growing up, had seen and heard the chant of the same video that you're referencing. And being able to come here to obviously work at the Sounders and be able to sit at the games and be able to hear it in person is almost, it puts a smile on your face, because yeah, you hear about this video from when you're a kid, which went viral, and then you go to a game in the stadium, and like for me now, like I hear it every week. So like that's the chant that gets sung in the stadium. So to be able to hear it is pretty funny, but have not met the person that made it go viral yet. Maybe that's something that I need to do at the next match.
Yeah, I think we need to find him in Seattle. Surely he's still there for the World Cup as well.
He might be. He might be. Maybe you guys can do that when you head up out here.
Yeah,
We'll find him.
maybe we'll start it. Um, on the World Cup and being in Seattle, you've mentioned to me before we came on air about what's sort of going on and what Seattle's doing to capitalize on that. Do you want to tell us what you guys are doing specifically, but also what's just happening around the city that FIFA's doing as well?
For sure. Again, another exciting summer for us. 6 games in Seattle. The big project that we've been working on here has been almost the question that, got posed to us as an organization, even when I started, was how are we going to capitalize on this big moment, right? And so what that ultimately led into was a project led by a colleague of mine. Was this floating soccer stadium barge that we're actually running out on the Seattle waterfront here in downtown, sort of walking distance from Lumen Field. So that's going to be running for the course of the World Cup. So there'll be watch parties going on. It's basically going to be Seattle's fan fest, if you like, for people that are visiting the city, people that live here, be able to come down and watch games. I think it's going to be open for 26 games, so 26 days, sorry. So it's going to be huge. And for us, it's about, yeah, like making sure we're dialed in from a programming perspective, that we got stuff going on each of the days for um for fans that are visiting and also people that live here. So for us, it's like it's all hands to the pump on building that out. So it's gonna be a good time from that perspective. So yeah, kind of looking forward to that and seeing how that gets up and running. So the first event for that is on June 11th. But yeah, I think it's something that's cool that hasn't necessarily been done before to this extent. I think there's been like floating, sporting activations that have been done by other various brands, but I think what we're going to be doing is something that's a little bit more longevity wise, and obviously programming wise a little bit more exciting. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Some of what you just spoke about is probably that legacy piece of the World Cup, which is always a big thing when we talk major events. But do you know if there's other legacy pieces that you can see Seattle's trying to capitalize on, or just American soccer is going to do in that northwest part of the country?
Yeah, I think the city has plans in terms of watch parties and stuff, but and I think you'll probably see a lot of stuff maybe around in other cities as well. Like for example, across the US where there's um, other host cities. But I think in terms of like what we're doing in Seattle, I think what our presence as the Sounders and also the Rain is obviously going to be the biggest in the city and have the biggest footprint. There's been a lot of pieces that have gone out in terms of social media as well that have made this thing go kind of viral, I guess, really for the short time that it's been live. So yeah, kind of other stuff that'll be going on throughout the city. I know FIFA will sort of switches on sort of various different elements within the stadium as well, which they'll do for their partners. But yeah, I think for the city of Seattle, I think this will be the big one for sure.
And I have to ask you, you've obviously got an English background, but you're in the US. So how do you think both countries will go if you could make some predictions?
Prediction. This is a dangerous game, especially as an England fan, with the disappointment that we've had. Yeah,
And obviously, this could slap you in the face because we'll be like 2 games into the World Cup when this comes out.
I was gonna say, is there a way for me to kind of change that just before it goes live? So,
We'll meet up and record a message maybe.
all right, there we go. There we go. There we go. Honestly, I want to say for um, let's start with the US. I think for the US, I think it's I mean they're in a fairly tough group. I think they have like Turkey in there, so they've got some tough opposition. But I think yeah, they should make it out the group, and then I'm not sure who they're kind of predicted to face in the following rounds. But being on home soil, and I know that they could play a knockout game here in Seattle as well, which could be exciting. So I think they could go pretty far. But I think for me, obviously being an England fan, and I'm actually going to the group game that they've got against Ghana in Boston as well. So looking forward to that, and hopefully they win that one. But hopefully, obviously, make it out the group, and then obviously, yeah, for us, I think it's about reaching the last stages of the tournament. I think we've come so close the last couple of tournaments, going back to like 2018, where we made the semis, and then we made the last two European Championship finals. Hopefully, this is the one where we can maybe go a little bit further, without jinxing it too much. But yeah, I think that would be great to be able to see England maybe go, that one step further would be good. But yeah, I think both teams have got you know good chances to be able to go pretty far in the tournament.
Were you?
How about you? How about you? How about the Socceroos? Where are they going?
Um, I still think we're the least highly regarded team in the group. Um, but from an Australian perspective, we're happy that we haven't been drawn against a top 8 nation that you just know you're not going to get any points against. So like for us in the years gone by, you're never going to get a draw or win against France and Germany and Spain and all these kind of teams. Whereas yes, when we drew the US, it was like awesome because they're not like a top 8 side, and so we might have a chance. So I think we all wanted Mexico, Canada, or America. Probably Canada most, to be honest. But yeah, I think my prediction is we'll get 3 points some way if it's 3 draws or a win, and that will finish third. That's where my head's at. Um, I think I don't think we'll beat Turkey or get maybe to draw at most there. But yeah, I think we're all really looking forward to the Seattle game, and obviously for me going over, that's probably the big one. Obviously, there's been all this talk online around the conversations and the reactions from both countries when the draw was made. So yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. But I think we never have high hopes as Australians. I think because we made the round of 16 last World Cup, there is a bit more expectation to go, well, we did that last time and we somehow won 2 games. Surely we can at least get out of the group. But yeah, it's a tough one. Like we haven't got a nation in this group where it's like an easy beat, could you say? The groups that have like a Haiti or a Curacao, most people will go in thinking everyone should beat them. Whereas for us, like every team could hold up their own. So I think anyone could finish first, anyone could finish last. I think I'd just be glad if we could make it out of the group. That'd be a good result.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a pretty from a competitive standpoint, you say all teams are like kind of, at a good level whereby, yeah, games could go either way, right?
Yeah, which is probably a good thing. As long as I go over there and we score some goals and we're competitive, that's probably all I ask for.
There you go.
Yeah. Want to go away from World Cup and just speak a bit more reflective on your journey. I suppose, how did you decide this was the career path that you did want to take along this whole journey?
In terms of like me stepping into sport.
Yeah, and the different steps you've taken. I mean, you probably couldn't predict America as well, perhaps, but
No, it doesn't. Honestly, the first time going back to university again, I think even like before that point, like when I was finishing high school, um, I was looking at different colleges and degree programs of what I wanted to do, and honestly, like nothing really interested me. One of the options I was looking at was going into computing, which I absolutely hated. I had no interest in it. And one day I'm watching a Premier League game, and at halftime an advert comes on the TV for the then college that I end up going to, UCFB. And so like I hear about this university program that does, sports business and football business degrees, and I'm like, oh, like that's interesting. Like I've never heard of this before. And so from there, I was like, okay, like let me find out some more information. Let me speak to some people who may have more insight, and that was kind of it from there, really, in terms of like that's what kind of like sparked it. Otherwise, before, like yeah, like my applications were done in terms of going into computing at university, and then like I pulled all of those out, and I was like, okay, like I need to change that immediately. So that's kind of like where it started, and then yeah, at kind of like various different points, it was like yeah, the growth opportunity of going to Wolves from Man United after kind of like seeing how they operate in that sense. And then the move to the US was to yeah, kind of get new experiences in terms of new environment, new working in new sports leagues, and yeah, ultimately like getting like new experience. And then for me to hop back into the soccer space was obviously like yeah, like okay, like that's what I want to do more of going forward based on like all the things that I've done throughout the past few years. And so yeah, that's kind of been the how it kind of started and how the kind of the thinking has evolved, I guess, really.
sounds like you made the right decision and that ad came up at the right time
Yeah, crazy, yeah.
because you're not doing computing.
Crazy, yeah.
um, in terms of some influencers, mentors, do you have a couple that you could name and some advice they've given you along the way?
Yeah, I think so. Even like going back to like my university days, I had a few people around me. Like my careers team at university were pretty solid. They used to bring in like guest speakers, um, all the time, pretty regularly, or do like workshops. One was like the chief executive of the Scottish Premiership. His name was like Neil Doncaster. He used to run like a really strong program, just in terms of like teaching us about the world of soccer, and obviously in his position as a CEO, obviously having that FaceTime with him, he'd work on things like, all right, like how for us in that point, like getting into the industry and how we can kind of get further from there, to like yeah, like even now, like being able to like speak to like people that I've worked with in the past, whether that's people that I had during my time at Wolves, or even like now that I work with at the Sounders, being able to use people as a soundboard to kind of yeah, like get guidance or advice off, I guess really is comes in pretty handy. Got a couple of family members as well that work in the sport as well, so they've helped me along the way. So my brother and my uncle particularly. So yeah, they were great as well in terms of me figuring out that university pathway as well in terms of like speaking to that. So yeah, I think there's been a few people that have played a part along the way in terms of like me getting to where I am ultimately.
Sounds like an incredible support network. This is a bit of a reflective one and a bit fun, but if you had to go back in time and someone said, I'll give you $1 million to land a job working in partnerships in sport, and you got 30 days, how would you approach that 30 days?
Okay, getting a job in partnerships. That's a good question. I'd honestly probably just I mean, it sounds like pretty old school, but yeah, like reach out to people, but do it in a meaningful way. I think doing it in a meaningful way goes a lot further than kind of just sending, things like a LinkedIn message or like a cold email. Like, do something different. Like, maybe send something in the mail. Like, people don't do stuff like that anymore.
You wouldn't expect that nowadays, no.
Yeah, like a handwritten letter or something like that, or something that goes along with it. Send something in. That's just like one example, but yeah, I think if you wanna get noticed by someone, if you wanna get kind of seen, I guess, really, which is obviously the main objective. And then yeah, to kind of be able to obviously then get FaceTime with that person, be able to like pick up the phone or whatever. Like, yeah, like do something that's different, like that hasn't necessarily been done for a while, that ultimately gets people's attention. So maybe I'd yeah, maybe send something in the mail to someone and then kind of hope that they kind of respond. And maybe just kind of mass send that out to as many people as possible and then kind of see what lands. But yeah, that's probably how I'd go about it. Have you asked that question before to people? I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, we ask it every single time, and we try to do it specific. There's always that same $1 million question, but we then say in like your field, if it's marketing or content creation, whatever. Um, they all go along the same line. Some have different initiatives to others. Like that's I've never heard someone say like do a letter or something like that. But a lot of cold outreach, posting on LinkedIn, trying to be yourself. Um, and other people have even said like invest the money and say like, hey, can you help me do this? I'll pay you back, and I'll help you get $1 million. Or like they're trying to work with $1 million. Um, so yeah, it's just a bit of a creative one we always chuck on at the end. So it's always just interesting to hear. But I think part of it, the underlying message is if someone is ultimately in a position now where they're trying to get a job in sport, which is often what we do, and it's like that's just a little bit of advice from all the different guests.
All right, or maybe just take the million and just don't get a job in partnerships.
You got to get a job to get the million.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But I guess we'll be including the Seattle Sounders address in the show notes so people can send you letters.
Okay, why not? Yeah, maybe I can take a share of the million then. Maybe that's the. There we go.
The last one for me is a question we do from the last guest, a bit anonymous. So this one is, how far do you have to take yourself to achieve a dream? And when do you think that dream has been reached?
Ooh. I'd probably say how far you have to take yourself. Probably to the point where it kind of feels uncomfortable. And probably when like you like honestly, it's like when you're stepping into something new, like you haven't done something before. Um, so I'd probably say like that's probably like if you're in that situation where like you're doing something that you don't necessarily like know too much about or feel uncomfortable, I'd probably say you're in the right area, you're in the right spot. And like when you, I suppose, yeah, on the second part of that question, when you reach that, I'd probably say you may reach something that you may have set yourself maybe a year ago or 18 months ago, but then I think you can quickly reassess in terms of, all right, like what's now like the next part of like, all right, where do I want to get to in terms of like the next 12 months? So I'd probably say like, yeah, like you can kind of like look at it in that respect, in that perspective in terms of like, all right, like that part of it can quickly evolve. You can always like that can change in terms of, all right, like now I got to here and like you may change in terms of like, all right, like this is the next part of my success and it may be something different or it may be grown into a bigger role. So yeah, I'd probably say that's how I'd answer that one.
That's a fair assessment. I like where your head's at. And the last one is for you to leave a question for our next guest. So what would that be?
I think it's going to be one of the Pacific Northwest people, like the Vancouver or the San Jose.
Well, I'm still hoping I can make that happen. So yeah, it could be.
All right, okay. Okay, that's a good question. I'd probably say, what are some of the pain points that you've seen in different jobs that you use in your experience and day-to-day role today?
Like it. Like it. And anyone could spin that any way they want to. So it's a flexible one.
There you go. Keep it broad.
Yeah. No, sounds good. Well, that's all from me, Sonny. Like I said, this is our first off my first remote podcast I've done. And being able to do this with yourself pre-World Cup is obviously very exciting. Again, this will be coming out when it's all in the midst of it all. So look forward to catching up when we're over there. But thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure there'll be a lot of valuable advice and takeaways people can take, whether you're from Australia, from the US, from England, partnerships or not. Well done on what you've been able to do so far. And we'll see you around and enjoy the World Cup in Seattle, mate. Thanks again.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate you having me on, and look forward to meeting up and catching up with you guys when you're over it.
Beauty. Thank you, mate.